Well, let me see if now it is okay because I was having a lot of troubles here with the video. But well, I think it's better now. Yeah, it is better now. Okay, so let's start by explaining what is the soul so we get to differentiate it from the spirit. Remember that we all have this physical body. Most people think that this physical body is what we really are, when no, at all. This is just a vehicle that we all have in order to manifest ourselves, in order to move in this third dimension. This is, yes, like a car that we have to move in this third dimension. And what is that we really are? Well, we are a divine spark that came from the source, from also known as the sacred absolute sun, here to have this experience in this wheel of samsara in order to achieve the self-realization. And this divine spark that we all have at this very moment is like divided into a 97% of essence that is currently trapped within each one of our negative ways of being, which is our ego. And that 97% of our essence is actually our soul. And we also have this 3% of free and conscious essence that cannot be trapped by the ego because it is like self-aware, the self-conscious, and it is our spirit. It is that part of light within us. It is our inner guide. It is our inner master. It is that wisdom and love of our consciousness, the part in us that we need to awaken, because in most humanity, the 3% is currently asleep. And we need to awaken in order to receive the guide to return to the light. And actually, that is like the aim of this course, to give you the tools so you can get to awaken your 3%, and so you can free this 97% of essence that is your soul. What is the soul? As you can see here, the soul is a set of virtues, powers, faculties, and forces that are latent in each one of us, in our presently contaminated essence, contaminated in or by our different negative ways of being, our ego, our psychological eyes, or psychological selves. And if we reflect on this, we're going to understand that right now, at this moment, we are soulless because we don't own our soul. We don't have those virtues. We don't have those powers. We don't have those faculties and forces because our ego has all of this conditioned, trapped. And in order for us to develop our soul, we need to do a work to get to recover those virtues, powers, faculties, and forces for our consciousness. And well, what are those virtues? Actually, a virtue is something that is opposite to a defect. And right now, because of all of our ego, we are full of defects. So we need to do a work on the psychological death in order to self-observe and to discover all those defects that we have within us, the way they manifest within us, and start eliminating them. Because from the elimination of a certain defect, from the death, the psychological death of that defect inside of us, is from where the virtue that is opposite is going to be born. So the first thing that we need to do is to start self-observing in order to discover all of our details of laziness, all of our details of greed, of lust, of pride, of anger, of gluttony, or of envy. Because those are like the main divisions of our ego. Those are like the heads of legion that are inside of us. But actually, each one of those subdivide into us into hundreds or maybe thousands of details that are manifested in us before any situation. before any desire that we feel, or before any impression that we receive from the exterior. There they come and they manifest through our physical body, through our personality, in order to feed on our energy, and they live inside of us because they have that portion of our essence trapped. Once we get to discover the defect and we get to eliminate them by practicing the psychological death, we are going to start rescuing the virtue, that is the part of our soul that is opposite to that defect. Now, something that is important to understand is that all defects move into different poles. Each defect has a positive pole and a negative pole, or we can say an active aspect and a passive aspect. And we need to discover this, because if we don't, we are going to be to self-deceive, deceive ourselves, believing that we don't have the defect. For example, we have anger, right? In its positive or active pole, we can find anger in us as this desire, to harm others, to use violence, our impatience, our intolerance, we yell someone, etc. There is our anger, and we need to observe that, and we need to be eliminating every detail of anger that we discover in our mind, in our emotion, in all of our body that we feel. We start self-observing and eliminating by asking our unconsciousness to eliminate that anger that we are observing. But there is this pole of anger that is fear. When we on the opposite side are there, like totally afraid, totally hiding ourselves. We don't harm anyone, but not because we don't want to, it's because we are full of fear. So that is the other aspect that we need to eliminate from the same defect. And if we do so, if we eliminate both poles of the defects, then the virtue, that is the center, that is the consciousness, that is the balance, is going to start developing in us. And well, when we do this work of freeing the essences that are trapped within each one of those psychological defects that we have, we are going to be developing those virtues that make up our soul. But also, our soul is a set of powers, and as we develop in each one of the 7 bodies that we have, every time that we advance in one inner initiation, we are going to talk about that today, we are going to be developing powers. When we manage, by practicing the suprasexuality, to regenerate this physical body that is right now in a lunar state, and we turn this physical body into a solar body, then we achieve the power to rule over the element earth, over the elementals of the earth that are known as the gnomes and pygmies. Then we are going to receive that power. That with the first initiation, with this, the regeneration of the physical body. When we achieve the second initiation, when we manage to regenerate our vital body, that is also in a lunar state, even though we already have that vital body, and we turn that vital body into a solar body, we are going to receive the power to rule over the water element. So we are going to have the power to rule the Undines and Nereids, that are the elementals of the water. You have heard about those historical characters that, for example, walk over the waters, or they have the power to divide the sea. Well, it was because they had fully regenerated their vital body, so they had a power over the water element. So that is something that you and me and everyone that managed to develop these internal bodies are going to have the possibility of doing. Okay, it's not something like just for some. This is something actually for everyone who start working seriously on themselves. And well, when we manage now to create our solar astral body that we need to fully create, because we only have like an embryo of the astral body, but when we do the work with the suprasexuality to create our astral body, then we are going to receive the power to rule over the fire, over the salamanders of fire that are the elementals of fire. And also with the creation, with the astral body, we are going to have the ability to move at will, totally conscious in the astral plane, and to visit all of the astros of the galaxy, because that is the power of the solar astral body. When we manage to finish the fourth initiation of major mysteries, that is the creation of our solar mental body, we are going to receive the power to rule over the air element, or the sylphs and sylphids of the air. And we are going to be able to receive all of the wisdom of those marvelous creatures. And also, as we already have a mental body fully created, we will have the possibility of moving consciously at will, entering to the mental world, where all the temples of wisdom actually, or the vast amount of temples of wisdom actually is, and we can go and receive all the wisdom from that dimension. And when we manage to create our solar causal body, we will be able to rule the whole nature, because someone that already have those 5 solar bodies is someone who already rule his inner nature, rules his sexual impulses that are in us, our physical body, our earth element, is someone who rules his own waters, his energy, his internal waters, where our internal waters is our energy, and is someone who rules his inner fire, that are his emotions, and is someone who rules his inner air, which is his thoughts, his mind. And when you manage to rule yourself, then you have at the same time the ability, or you receive at the same time the power to rule the whole nature. That is, those are the powers that we receive by developing our souls. But also we are going to receive and to develop faculties. And for example, with the creation of or the regeneration of our physical body, we receive the faculty of communicating with the elementals of nature. With the second initiation, we receive the power of remembering our past lives. And with the astral body, we receive the faculty of the telepathy. With the mental body, the intuition. With the causal body, the clairvoyance. And by joining the 2 superior bodies that we don't have to create because they are fully created, but we need to join them. We are going to receive the clairvoyance and the polyvoyance. Actually, a master that already developed fully his soul and join his spirit actually can handle all of these faculties. And well, we also, as this psychic development takes place in us, all or a whole bunch of forces are going to start integrating in our inner being. And we are going to be able to do things that neither 1,000 men together would be able to do. We are going to have physical strength. We are going to have a power on our words. So when a master actually is at that point, teach others, he already has like this power in his word that he can reach the consciousness of that person. And we are going to have at that point a lot of willpower. We will have all those forces, because those are all the things that we receive by developing or fabricating our soul. But how are we going to do this? Well, actually, it is something very, very easy, but we need to do it. It needs a lot of dedication, continuity of purposes in this work. And the factors that are going to allow us to fabricate our soul are the psychological death. Remember, we have explained these three factors from the first lecture. But what is the psychological death? It's the elimination of all of our defects or wrong ways of being. We need to be in self-observation at every moment to discover all of the wrong ways of being that manifest in us from moment to moment. When we discover a defect, we ask our Divine Mother, which is the love of our consciousness, to eliminate that. That way, by discovering things in us and eliminating them, we are going to be rescuing the essences that make up our soul. So that is like one of the factors, and it is a very important one. Okay, the second factor is the spiritual birth, and that is what we are going to do with the practice of the suprasexuality that we explained in the previous lecture, where we were talking about the 7 bodies, and that is here recorded in the page in case you didn't see that lecture about the 7 bodies and how to create them through sex. Well, there you see the whole practice. The spiritual birth is about making a wise use of our sexual energy, uniting sexually with our couple, but not to spill our sexual energy through orgasm and ejaculation, but to make it ascend through our spine to fix all of those essences in our spinal cord and to create the existential bodies of the being that are our 7 bodies. And the third factor that we will need to develop in us to make this a reality is the sacrifice for humanity. Because someone who doesn't sacrifice for others, who doesn't help others, actually advances but very, very slowly in his inner path. While someone who is already living this path, is already practicing these factors, is already awakening his consciousness and shares this information with everybody, then that person is sacrificing for humanity and is advancing like 3 to 10 more times than another who doesn't sacrifice. So those are the 3 factors that we need to be practicing in our daily basis to be developing our soul. Okay, now what are the exact steps to fabricate our human soul? Well, the first will be to receive the objective knowledge, because if we don't know what we need to do, how are we going to do it? So the first is to receive this information, to know about the 3 factors for the revolution of consciousness, and the second step will be to start practicing those factors, start working on the psychological death, on the elimination of our psychological defects, working on the supersexuality, and working on the sacrifice for humanity. When we start working on this, especially on the psychological death, we are going to start a process that is known as the balance of the energy centers, as we learned in the lecture number 4. And we are going to be saving our energy, and we are going to be balancing our energy centers. The 4th step will be to have a stable partner with whom to practice the suprasexuality. All of that energy and all of those essences that we are rescuing with the psychological death, we are going to start using them we're going to start using sexuality in a superior way to make all those essences and energies to fix on our spine, right? The 5th step will be to rise to waters. We come from fornication. What is fornication? It's the spilling of our sexual creative energy. So if we really want to create our human soul, to develop our human soul, we need to stop fornicating. We need to stop making our waters go out and down with the ejaculation and orgasm. So we need to be working on the psychological death with all the different details of our fornicating selves, all of the defects in us of lust that make us want to reach orgasm and ejaculation. When we do this work and we stop spilling our sexual energy, and we are all the time there in the sexual practice just making these waters ascend, then you are going to be living this process in the astral plane, where you are going to see that the waters start going up, and that is rising the waters. When you manage to do so, when you manage to stop fornicating, when you achieve chastity, and you are going to the sexual practice constantly and never ever spilling your sexual energy, then at some point you are going to, or it's going to be igniting you, the sacred fire of the Kundalini. And in the astral plane, you're going to receive a silver sword. This silver sword means that you are already an initiate of the White Lodge, that you are already walking on the initiation path, and that all the essences and all of the energy that you are making ascend through your spine is going to start being condensed in your spine to build the existential bodies of the beings. Someone who works actually hard on achieving chastity can reach this level in like 7 months or 1 year by working, with discipline. Yes. And well, what is the 7th step? Once you are already an initiate, once you are already fixing all those essences in your spine, you need to start completing the 5 initiation of major mysteries. That is, you need to regenerate your physical body. The 33 vertebrae of the physical body needs to be filled with sexual energy. That process, the regeneration or creation of each body, can take approximately 2.5 years or 3 years by working with discipline. But the first thing will be, or the first initiation would be, to regenerate your physical body. The second one, to regenerate your vital body. The third one, to create your astral body. The fourth, to create your mental body. And the fifth, to create your causal body or body of the will. Then at that point, you are going to be faced with an important decision. You need to choose between the path of nirvana or the direct path. The path of nirvana is a path that promises you like this sort of heaven where you are going to be like happy for probably thousands of years. But if you take that path, you are betraying your inner being. And actually, out of 1,000 initiates comes to the decision of the path, 999 takes the path of nirvana, and they betray their inner being. They don't make the will of their father, so they don't take the narrow and difficult path, which is the direct path. But if you are a revolutionary one, and at that point you choose, or you make your father choose, because he will always choose the direct path, your inner father, your consciousness, then you are going to have the opportunity to join your divine soul. When you already create your human soul, which is like comprises of those 5 bodies, then you have that right, the right to join your divine soul, which is your buddhic body. And from that union between the human and the divine is what is known as the perfect matrimony. So when we finish the 5th initiation, at that point we become real men. Right now we are just intellectual animals. We are not real men. A real man is someone who has already 5 solar bodies. And when we reach that point, at that moment, we can say that we already possess a human soul. We already made a work to possess a human soul, okay? And each initiation, as you advance into initiations, the little sword that you receive at the beginning is going to start growing and growing with each initiation. So you can like verify your initiation process in the astral plane. When you unfold yourself to the astral plane already at that point when you already have a sword, and you can see the length of the blade of the sword, then you can see in what initiation you find yourself, because the length of the blade of the sword is going to be the length of the fire in your spinal column. Okay, now how is the spirit fabricated? This is the process. When you already have a human soul created, so human soul is symbolized as this triangle that goes up, and you join your divine soul, that is this triangle that goes down, there the perfect matrimony is achieved, or the union between the human and the divine part in us. And what happens that from that union, an amazing force will be born that is known as the internal Christ. Actually, Christ is a force of our consciousness. It is the fire of the fire that is come to do the work to develop the spirit, and that force is going to be born from that union. When you already become man, the Son of Man, who is the Christ, can be born in your interior. Okay, so now we are going to form the second triad, which is made up of Manas. Manas is the human soul of those 5 bodies that you already created, right? And Buddhi, which is your divine soul, and Atman, which is the intimate, which is related to this Christic force. And that triad is called the spirit. That is your 3% that you already have there, like in this beginning process of development. And the development of the spirit, the development of these 3 forces will occur in the ascent of the second mountain, because that process in which you created a human soul or fabricated a human soul is known as the first mountain of initiation, and the second mountain is the process that lives the one who takes the direct path. And then you're going to start working on another process that we are going to be like talking like in detail in later lectures. And on that second mountain, the 7 churches of wisdom that resides in your spine and the 7 consciousness or the 7 wisdom will fully develop. So in that second mountain, with the development of your spirit, you will actually receive the wisdom about the universe, about the gods, about everything that exists in this world and in this universe. That is why it is said, man, know thyself, and you shall know the universe and the gods. Because if you do this work, which is actually the self-knowledge, you can get to achieve the wisdom of everything. And well, that is the fabrication, the creation of the soul and of the spirit, and that is today's lecture. The invitation is that you start working on yourself, that you start reflecting on all of this information, that you also ask your inner being in the astral plane about this information that you are receiving here, that you get to corroborate by yourself. That is actually about with the psychological death, with the spiritual birth, and with the sacrifice for humanity, that you can advance in your inner path. And well, if you do so, and if you start practicing, you're going to start seeing the results of this marvelous work of getting to know yourself. And well, this has been today's lecture, and I want to invite you for our next lecture that we are going to be seeing next Thursday. Yeah, live in this on this page, and we are going to be talking there about the laws of return and recurrence. So in that we are going to know all about past lives, about what is a deja vu, to know everything about the destiny, and to see how we can modify our destiny. So actually that is a very interesting lecture. And well, this has been all for today. Thank you very much to all of you who watched this video. And remember that if at any point you have any question, you can leave your questions there, or you can contact us through the messenger of the page, and we will be gladly helping you with any question that you have. Okay, so thank you very much to all of you, and see you the next time. Ciao, ciao.